Alright, so here's my automatic rail system, and I'm just going to kind of cover the basic usage and functionality of it, just kind of how it works. So it was originally made just to be kind of a fun project, and it doesn't really have any survival application because I was like, hey, let's experiment with the test4 command. And well, the test4 command since has been deleted and replaced with execute, and that actually caused quite a hiatus in me being able to use this. And I actually had to go on Minecraft forum and ask about how to correct all my syntax, and a couple of guys helped me out with that and kind of made it work again. And I actually expanded it and made it able to use minecart chests too. So it's if you can force the chunks to load, you can send items basically everywhere without having to use water canals and hoppers. So it does have a lot of functionality. It's just not very applicable to survival. It is a fun build to have nonetheless. I generally switch between creative and survival just so I can make these little builds and stuff without having to just struggle and become very creative with redstone. Overall, it is a very simple design. It does use the basic functionalities of Rails. So it'll come in on the right. We'll skip through this queue. Oh, come on. So you'll go through this queue. You'll come in here. As soon as you come in here, the queue closes off, and you'll come around. And without a name tag, you'll just go around in a circle. I have it set like that just so it's easier to understand. But it does switch the rails back and forth. So let's say I have go through that one. It is substation. So go in on the right, and it'll turn this one and put us out here. There are 5 possible combinations per output, making each one of these able to handle a possible 20 full combinations. It's basically 19 if you don't consider the way back home, or even 15 if all of the ways to the previous substation are considered. Talking about that though, just kind of outline how the redstone works. It just picks up from the execute if command, like I said. Picks up the entity, the distance from the center, which is 7. The central circle or square or whatever you want to call it is 7 by square. And so it just picks up like 2 blocks before you get into that 7 by. That way it has time to switch everything properly. It does pick up in your inventory the name tag. I used a name tag because not many people have name tags named like substation, home, and stuff. There is a difference between command block and anvil named too, so really it shouldn't even matter that much. I do have it terminating in a run help command just so it does have a redstone output without saying something in the chat. Like if I go, yeah, it'll just spam the chat, and it's pretty awful. So, concerning the queue, it detects any entities. I had it set at E type, or not even a type, it just would detect everything. Right now it's only detecting players and just a 1 block larger radius than the other command. This does mean it won't queue minecart chests, which, I mean, it doesn't have a huge chance of breaking depending on how many people are using the system. I would like to figure that out, but at E seems to break it even if I do type. I could probably do at E type equals just minecart, or whatever the exact name is, and then comma, and then type equals player, which is probably the solution I'm going to post if it works. I'll check that over real quick. As for the station, just for simplicity's sake, and especially if you're using a chest minecart, you'll want one of these. For arrivals, it'll come in and it'll go in and turn it to the next input. That way you don't get a lot of clutter and a lot of bounce back. Something that I would highly recommend doing is clearing the name tag and killing the minecart within a distance of whatever your system is set up as. Now it'd be easier just to set this as a chain command block. That way it will go with only one pressure plate. That way you don't have to worry about hitting both and potentially maybe breaking the system. As for output, you really only need one line. And I'll show you over here. You'll just use these to pick up your name tags. That way it all works fairly seamlessly. These will all be located at your train stations. Otherwise, if you're, say, at a house or something, you can just have a single command block that'll give you one that'll send you straight to your train station, and then you can go and select from there. That way it just keeps everything a lot simpler. It does make your trips a little bit longer, but I found that is the most seamless way to do everything and make everything still look pretty and, you know, kind of keep it thematic. As for issues with the system, I haven't noticed it recently, but the old system especially had it. It was poorly lit, and so bats would spawn in here all the time. And just to remedy that, I had a command block running a kill command for bats specifically. I don't think it's necessary, but I would just have that in there just in case, because especially if you get the queue system to work with minecarts, it'll pick up the bats, and then it'll just send the minecarts into a queue, and then they'll be forever stuck until you go kill the bat or the bat despawns, and then it'll finally actually fix. In terms of, specifically the queue, so this is actually too close. If you want this to work better, it'd be better to have the queue way out here and have the queue longer. That way, it's less likely that as soon as, let's say, you have one person in there getting routed, two people go into the queue at the same time. As soon as that person leaves, it is highly likely that that queue will let both people onto the rail, and then it'll send two output signals and may mix the two people up and just throw it off. So it's better to have more timing. Now, I would like to make a system where the queues would activate at the same time and then deactivate with a longer interval. So this one would release first, and then after this one would have enough time for a cart to get all the way around and in. Then this one would release, and then this one, and then this one. That is a very long timer, so you might go around this one 4 times before you actually get through that one, which would make this one potentially be stuck permanently if this one kept getting new ones all the time. So it's a weird problem. I'm not sure how I would fix it. It is I'm just not sure how you'd go about fixing that, but it is a known problem and something that can't be super easily fixed, especially not with a design this compact. But as is, the reliability is pretty solid. On a server with 5 people, I've not noticed any issues. If we sent items a lot more and you know, had maybe 20, 25, maybe even 30 people using it frequently, I'm sure we would run into those problems quite a bit. Now, this is free to do with whatever and change however. So, please feel free to fix those problems. And I mean, I'd love it if you'd send me a message or something if you did. But that's the basics of it. Now, just things to note, if you do want to create it, these, you can make these work well and go to the right. Now, these will sometimes be flipped depending on just where they're placed and how they're placed. Let me go, of course. Okay. So you'll have your bank, and it'll go to an input repeater and come around, and then it can either invert or just go normal. That way you can control which way that rail is facing whenever it needs to be activated. And the same thing goes for the queue. It's just, you can invert it as needed. And yeah, it's basically everything you need to know to build one. Now, as for building this specific one, I mean, I can make a video if people really want me to, but you should be able to get everything you need to know just off of looking at this. I will have all the commands posted in the description. That way you can make it for yourself without having to go through all the issues I had. And yeah, I hope you enjoy, and